and thank you for registering for this course on how to teach writing to elementary age school kids. My name is Dr. Anastasia Haldin. I'm a homeschool consultant. I've been working with 5 of my own children, teaching them how to write, and also I helped many other homeschool children, teaching them how to write, giving advice to many families on how to get their children on track with writing. So let's begin. Like anything else, elementary school writing has its own challenges, which, if approached from the correct standpoint, become not so much of a challenges, but kind of interesting quirks. So what we need to do is work out an easy plan so that the writing takes care of itself. Once the plan is in motion, the children write every day and things become beautiful. Let me explain to you how do we get there. Please take a pen and paper, because I will be saying certain things. You will think you'd remember them, and then later you may forget them. So please take a pen and paper and write down some things that I'm saying to you. Number one, if I were to ask you, what is the goal of elementary school writing? What do you want to accomplish at the end of elementary school? How do you want your child to write? So now that you thought maybe a little bit about your own answer, and by the way, feel free to come up with it, let me tell you the real goal of elementary school writing. The first goals that we can think of is we want our children to spell more or less correctly. We want them to be able to write coherently, to maybe produce 2-3 sentences without spelling mistakes. Maybe if the child is advanced, to write the paragraph that kind of flows, the language flows, that is all the parts of speech are there, that is grammatically correct. And if the child is not so super advanced, maybe write 2-3 sentences at the end of elementary school where everything that would grammatically flow correctly and the spelling would be pretty clean and that would make sense. This is what we think, right? Now, the real goal of elementary school writing is for your child to not hate writing, but to love it. I come across so many families where people say, my child hates writing. And this is a road to nowhere. You start there. You have a 4th grader saying, I don't like to write. And then they have to write more and more and more for their school assignments in later years. And it just spirals down from there. If they don't like writing when they're little, it's very hard to teach them to like writing later. So the key is starting them off right. If you take a staircase step by step, step by step, step by step, in the staircase is your writing process, and you go very specifically from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3. You don't skip anything, and you don't try to run up the staircase. You go step by step, step by step. At the end of elementary school, I can guarantee that your child will like writing. They may not love it, but it will not be something they fight against. Now, how do we accomplish that plan? The plan is for the child to spell more or less correctly, to write 2-3 or more sentences coherently without too many grammatical mistakes, sentences that flow, sentences that are not just 3-word sentences, kind of more with adjectives and adverbs, kind of more advanced sentences. And also, we want our child to narrate well. Narrate meaning you read them a story and then ask them, so what is this story about? And they should be able to tell you what is this story about at the end of elementary school. And also, we want our child to like writing, hopefully to love it. How do we accomplish that? We have our staircase, right? Our special plan. How do we accomplish that? Number one, we have to write every day. According to the plan, which I will later tell you, we have to work with a child every single day. Why? Because, have you ever said, I don't like brushing my teeth? You probably haven't. And even if you don't like it, you keep doing it, and it becomes kind of an okay thing for you. You don't actively hate brushing your teeth because you do this every day. Same goes for writing. Even the most reluctant writer who says, I am not going to write one word. No, you make that child write every day. Don't kill him with your writing. Don't make him write paragraphs every day. Tell him it's okay. I understand you don't like writing. This is why, especially for you, we're just going to write one short word. Write a word cat. 3 letters, C-A-T. Write it down. Tomorrow, write the word dog. Day after tomorrow, write cat and dog. And then a few days later, write a sentence. Cat and dog fought. This is how you accomplish continuity. So first of all, you make them work on something every single day. Now, after we've gone through that, the writing plan for elementary school goes as follows, and this you may want to write down. First, we work on tracing. Then we work on copying. Then we work on dictation. And finally, we work on composition. Now, composition is something we do not work on in elementary school unless you have a super advanced writer or a child you want to rush through school for whatever reason, or you have some other special reason to make your child go faster. Composition is something you do not work on in elementary school, which is something that goes against the principles of many public schools. The plan I gave you is a classical writing plan that many generations of people followed before, that many students learned in school before. Today, you go to school and they tell you, we don't care how badly you write. We don't care about spelling mistakes. Just express yourself. Just write whatever you feel like. You want to come up with a story, write the story. We don't care how badly it's written. It's just you writing that's beautiful. No, it's not. It's like building a house without a basement. First of all, you learn the rules of building and then you build. Your house is going to be more beautiful and more sturdy this way. First, learn the rules, then apply the rules. Now, when I say learn the rules, it may sound very harsh to you and very cold, like rules are boring. They are somewhat boring, but there is a way to make your rules more creative and more alive, which we're going to learn in a minute. So, our first step on our staircase of writing of elementary school is tracing. There are many workbooks, worksheets, online worksheets on how to trace letters, and that's wonderful. Here's a problem. If you get a child who doesn't like letters, you get a child who doesn't like writing, you show them a workbook of letter C, and they go, I don't want to do it, and then you have to fight them. We don't want to do that as parents because we fight our children enough. There's a lot of resistance that we're met with. We don't want to do this. How do you do this easily? I'm going to include, with this course, I'm going to include a worksheet of tracing figures. It's little cute figures like bunnies and monkeys and fruit and apples and cookies, things that children like, and you have to trace around them. So the same way like you'd work on a letter. So this is called a pre-writing tracing worksheet. Instead of tracing a letter, trace pictures. So that is more like a fun artistic project for your child than let's sit down and do letter drills. So once they're done tracing figures, they trace letters. Letter worksheets are available anywhere, but I am also going to include with this course cursive writing and tracing worksheets. So if you want to work on print letters first, you can download it anywhere. Just type into Google free letter tracing worksheets and you're going to get millions of them. Now, why am I giving you cursive worksheets? Because I believe cursive should be taught before print. Again, this is a classical method of education. You can teach a 4-year-old how to do print letters just for fun without putting it too much into their brain. And once they've done that, once they can do letter A like that as a triangle, then right away move them onto the cursive. Why? Here's why. I have it all written down so don't forget. Cursive writing improves brain development in the areas of thinking, language, and working memory. Also, cursive writing, unlike print writing or typing on a computer, stimulates brain synapses and synchronicity between right and left hemispheres of the brain. So you're going to have, if your child is writing in cursive, that child has his whole brain working when they're writing. Even later, when they're in middle school, when they're writing nice essays, you can watch their whole brain engaged. It's beautiful. It's important. They will have their whole lives type on computers. They will do many years of just pushing buttons because this is how our lives are today. We communicate by typing most of the time. We write while typing. So while they're little, work on cursive. I strongly encourage that. Of course, it's your decision. You want to do print, that's fine, but cursive is really helpful. So I'm going to include cursive writing worksheets, which you're going to work on after you're done with tracing pictures. So then you trace letters. Okay, and then after tracing, we move to our second step of our staircase of writing. That step is copying, copy work. Copy work has been pretty much removed from public school, and it's sad because while you're doing copy work, you're learning grammar, you're learning spelling, you're learning how to put words together, you're learning beautiful handwriting, and you're learning how to sit down and do your work and not complain. How do you do copy work? First of all, make the child copy letters, like we just said. Trace letters, then copy letters. Put a letter in front of them, make them copy that letter. Once they're done with that, they copied all the letters of the alphabet. It's easy, it's not fun anymore. Move to words. First of all, short word. Like I said, cat, 3 letters. Write down cat, or get a worksheet where cat is written with beautiful letters, or get one of the writing curriculums, which I'm going to include in another piece of paper with this course. I'm going to include a list of good writing curriculums. So good writing curriculums tend to have letters to copy. So any way you want. I personally just write the word. I can write in nice cursive. I write the word, I put it in front of the child, and make them copy the word 1, 2, 3 times, and then make a drawing of that cat, because it's more fun. If you just make them write cat, it's not fun. If they write cat and draw a cat, it's more fun. So once you see, you work on this for a while. And again, I'm not going to tell you you work on this for 3 weeks. I'm not going to tell you work on this for 3 months. It depends on your child. You have to always watch your child. No matter what you do in homeschooling, watch your child. Certain child in 3 days is done with words, wants to move to sentences. Another child wants to sit, do words for a year. Just watch where they are. See if you can gently stimulate them, but don't over push them. Once you're done copying words, you move to copying sentences. What kind of sentences do you copy? I suggest inspiring sentences that mean something. And if the child is reluctant, doesn't want to copy, funny sentences. Cat sat on dog, and then draw the cat sitting on dog. Funny. From humor, you can move on to inspiring. Why I like Bible quotes, Bible verses. I like important, good poetry. Some important facts to memorize, maybe scientific facts. Watch your child, see what they're leaning more towards. If you have a kid who loves math, write some scientific fact or some mathematical fact in words. If you have a child who loves literature, find a beautiful poem and write a line. Bible verses, spiritual quotes, things you want your child to learn, memorize, put inside of their heart, write it down, make them copy it, and later discuss it. How does the child copy? In public school, they take a pencil, they write in a pencil, then they erase whatever's wrong, then they write again. Here is the classical method. I'm not going to tell you take a quill, so it's not that bad, but you take a pen. Why you take a pen? Because you're more attentive when you write with a pen. Because you know, if you make a little mistake, you'll have to cross it out, white it out. Mom is going to notice, it's going to be ugly. Mom will most likely ask you to rewrite, which I ask my children to rewrite. Even small children, if you copy one sentence and you made more than one mistake in the sentence, you rewrite the whole sentence. So you have to be very attentive when you write. And copy work requires attention. The reason why you ask them to do copy work is because you want them to be paying attention to writing, to spelling, to grammar, to words. So therefore, pen, gel pen. I'm going to write down, which I'm going to give you some links to pens on Amazon, which I recommend. And you can choose one of those or choose something you like. Because certain pens, you have to push on them harder, scratch the paper. Some of them, the ink doesn't come out so easily. So it has to be the kind of good gel pen so the child doesn't get frustrated, but also that pen has to give you the desired effect of the child paying attention to what they're doing. So copying sentences. We go from short sentence to longer sentence. First sentence that your child copies should have 3 words. Afterwards, 4 words, then 5 words, then 10 words. Just keep going more until you give them a nice, big, long, beautiful sentence with adjectives and adverbs that's nice and flowy, and the child can just do everything perfectly. Once they're able to do that, one sentence, nice long sentence with one mistake, or ideally with no mistakes, you move to 2 sentences. When they're able to do 2 big sentences, 1 mistake or no mistakes, 3 sentences. Once they're done with 3 sentences, do 4 or 5. 5 is the maximum. 4 or 5 sentences. Nice little paragraph, written in beautiful cursive writing. 1 mistake per paragraph, or ideally no mistakes per paragraph. And when I say mistake, it better be something stupid, because they're copying, they're not really taking dictation. So if it's a stupid mistake, like they missed a letter somewhere, it was there but they just didn't write it, little mistake because not paying attention, forgive that, that's fine. If the mistakes are really terrible, if the writing is horrible, one letter is tall. I have this child who's just not very artistic in writing, so he writes one letter is big, one letter is short, and I make him write everything kind of same height. So even though he makes no mistakes in copy work, it's just sloppy. So I make him rewrite it, and then when he rewrites it, it becomes pretty. So copy. Now, where do we do all of this copy work? Where do we write it all? You buy a notebook, lined notebook. If the child makes letters that are really tall and really huge, like that child I just mentioned, there is a writing special notebook where the lines are not as thick, where there's a third kind of traced line in between the two thick lines. So all the letters have to be that short height. If the child really has a problem with the size of the letters, get that notebook that forces them to write shorter letters. That would really help them and remove a lot of frustration from your home. So all the writing, you'd be like, hey, listen, I told you to write up to this line. And they'd be like, yeah, you're right. So that's it. You won't be fighting and arguing about that. Anyway, so now your elementary age child manages to copy a whole paragraph with no mistakes. Beautiful writing, everything is done. Where do we move to next? We finally move to our last step for elementary school. You remember there's one more step called composition, comes later. In elementary school, the last step is dictation. Dictation. Why dictation? Because the child learns how to pay attention. The child learns spelling. The child learns writing rules, grammar, punctuation. He needs to pay attention to punctuation. Mama stopped here, there's a comma. Mama stopped here, there's a period. They have to know capital letters at the beginning of the sentence. In copywork, they see it in front of their eyes. In dictation, they have to think about it. Now, what do I dictate? I'm going to include with this course a list of writing curriculums. One of the curriculums there is called Writing with Ease. It has 1, 2, and I believe even 4. Writing with Ease 4, I think, even exists. I went up to 3. No, I actually did 4 with my children too. Yeah, there's 4 Writing with Ease curriculums. So you start with 1 and then you gradually move on. If you get that curriculum, you don't need to worry about what to dictate. It has what to dictate right in there, included with the curriculum. Now, if you don't get that curriculum, what do you dictate? I'm going to include, on the same list of curriculums, I'm going to include a book which has many dictation passages. And you're going to, mosquitoes are outside, you're going to add, you're going to use those dictation passages from that book. You can also dictate pretty much anything. If your child just read a book, and they say, oh, Mom, I just read this book. It's so wonderful. I loved it. Great. If they love it, dictate a couple of sentences from that book. And they'll be like, oh, it's about my favorite. I read a book about a pony. And you're dictating me sentences about the pony. I'm going to write. I'll be so happy. You want your child to be happy. Writing, as we said in the beginning, was the goal of elementary writing. For the child to love writing. So don't give them some super hard Bible verse and make them write it without a single mistake or with perfect handwriting. Write them something, dictate them something that's going to make them happy. Now, how do you dictate? Certain rules. First of all, a student who is just beginning to take dictation, give them one sentence. First, you read that sentence twice, then make them write. As the child gets older, there are 2, 3 sentences to dictate. First, you read the whole passage. What I'm about to dictate to you, and you read the whole thing. And then you say, now you're going to write the first sentence. You read that first sentence twice. And then they have to write it down. They can't stop and be like, Mom, what did you said? What was that about? No. You dictate the sentence twice, and they write it. It teaches them how to pay attention. When you dictate, how do you do it? You don't just read like blah, 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 blah. No, you read opening your mouth wide, articulating everything, articulating every comma. If you think the child is going to have a particular problem with a word because you know where your child is bad with spelling and what's probably going to go wrong, you can ask them right before they're done writing. You can say, how do you spell the word fought? How do you spell that? And they go F-O-T. You go, no. Remember, bought, fought, brought, they're kind of similar words. How do you spell those? So before they're writing, you can work on that. So they don't make a mistake and then you work on that. If you know in advance there's going to be a word that's just not going to work for your particular child, you can work on that word in advance. Now, after you've done dictating, they wrote their passage, you go through the text, you find all the mistakes, you underline the mistakes, you talk about them, you explain, here's why this is a mistake, here's why this is a mistake. And then whichever words they misspelled, you write these words separately outside of the dictation and tell them, now copy these words that you wrote wrong. And they copy the words that they wrote wrong, and they're done. If they make more than one mistake per sentence, I strongly encourage you to to give them copy work again, to make them copy that whole dictation passage that had more than one mistake per sentence. Just tell them, okay, here's how you spell this word, and this word, and I explain to you why. Remember the rules, and now you take that whole thing that you wrote and copy it underneath. Write it again. There's no need to dictate again, but if there are too many mistakes, copy the whole thing. And then if you keep working with your child, you keep dictating passages to them and they keep making mistakes non-stop. You see mistakes, 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 something is not clicking, it's okay. Go on your staircase, one step down, go back to copy work on copy work for a while. Now this is the basic plan. So you go from tracing letters to copying letters to dictating to composition. Spelling, how do we work on spelling? I'm including a couple of wonderful spelling programs on your list of writing curriculum. Work on these spelling programs teach you exactly how to work on spelling, when to work on spelling, how many days to work on spelling. So get a good spelling program and just work on that. Now, keep in mind one more thing. There are some children who are naturally gifted spellers. You can usually identify those middle of elementary school, end of elementary school. They pretty much don't make spelling mistakes. And when they do, something clicks in their brain and they kind of correct it right away. Usually these children tend to be also strong readers. You read a lot, you spell better. If you have one of those children, consider giving them a spelling program, maybe, if at all, in the beginning of middle school. Because if a child is a good natural speller, there's no need for them to sit 3 days a week and work on spelling words. They're good naturally with spelling, just let it go. Watch your child, watch their spelling. If the spelling is good, no need for a spelling program. If the spelling is average, start working according to the program. Now, this is pretty much the plan for the goals of elementary writing, how to accomplish these goals. And now, most importantly, how many days a week, how often, how do we organize it? Here's how we organize it. As I said, writing every day. Write something every day. If you have a child that is just tracing, make them trace a little bunny every day. They don't want to trace a bunny, make them trace a circle a day. But make sure it's done every day so it becomes like brushing teeth, so they don't say, I hate it. After they're done with that, if they're copying, if they're on a high level of copying, they're able to copy a whole passage. Okay, so twice a week they copy big, long passages. The other 3 days of the working week, they just copy a word here and there. Write a little something every day. Big work twice a week. Twice a week, a lot of work. 3 days a week, a little work. If we're moving to dictation, twice a week, they're taking big, nice dictation passages. The other 3 days, you dictate them short sentences, just 3-word sentences here and there, just dictate that. Now, for all of my bilingual friends, I have many people that I communicate with that are bilingual, families are bilingual. My family is bilingual. My children speak Russian and English, and we write in Russian, and we do a lot of work in Russian. Twice a week you work in one language, twice a week you work in another language. 1 day a week you either relax or do some little that hardly matters. If you allow one language to dominate, if you work, let's say, in English 3 days a week and in Russian twice a week, unfortunately, in about a year, you will see the results of that. You will see the Russian is going down, English is going up. They really have to level up. It is important. Now, to summarize everything, what did we talk about today? We said what is the goal of elementary writing, which was to not hate writing, to love writing. We want your child at the end of elementary school to spell pretty well, to be able to narrate a story, to be able to write 2-3 sentences to a small paragraph coherently without big grammar mistakes, write kind of flowy sentences, nice big sentences. And before we move on, how do we talk about accomplishing these goals? I'm going to briefly talk about how to narrate. Again, I'm including a list of curriculums for this course. One of these curriculums explains writing with ease, explains, gives you stories, and asks you to narrate stories. If you don't want to get that curriculum, at least 3 days a week, ideally more. Every time you read something to your child, every time the child reads a book by themselves, you say, what was that about? And the child sometimes goes, well, certain children are able to narrate fast. You say, you read a book and you go, okay, what did I just read? And the child just goes, bah, 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 and it's all perfect. And other children, they feel like you just took a frying pan, banged them on the head real hard. They're like, what? I don't know. Even though they understood what they read, it's really hard for them to summarize and narrate. Yet, it's extremely important to move on to our next step, which is composition in middle school. You can't move to composition unless you're able to narrate a story. So for those children, we ask questions. Let's take, what's the name of that story? The train that goes over the hill. I thought I could. Anyway, I'm pretty sure if you have little children, you remember that story. I just completely the name escaped right now. So you say, so what was the problem in this story? You take the big concept and separate it into small little concepts so the children are able to narrate better. So if you ask them, what was that story about? And the child goes, well, then you say, okay, let's separate the story into little segments. What was the problem in this story? And the child goes, oh, there was a train. You say, okay, there was a train. Was there a problem with the train? Yeah, the train broke down. Okay, it broke down. And why was that such a big problem? Maybe we could fix the train. No, the problem was the train was full of dolls and toys and food, and all of that was supposed to be brought to the other side of the mountain. But because the train broke down, it was unable to do so. So it was afraid that all the other boys and girls on the other side of the mountain are going to cry and be upset. This was the problem. They needed another train to bring the food and the toys to the other side. Okay, the child answered the question. So you say, okay, how did they accomplish that? How did they solve the problem? How did the broken train solve the problem? Or how did the toys solve the problem? And the child again answers that question. Then you ask the next question and the next question until you get the answers to all of your questions. And then you ask the child, okay, now that you explained everything to me, tell me in 3 or 4 sentences, 2, 3, 4 sentences, what was that story about? And this is how you make big, long concepts short and easy. If you have a narrator that just gives you too much detail, my daughter, which is extremely irritating to me sometimes, I ask her narrate a story and she gives me a bunch of detail that doesn't matter and misses the core that is crucially important. She puts the core in there, but it's not emphasized enough. And they go, oh, so the doll was pink haired and it had a beautiful dress and it had blue eyes. Okay, what did the doll do? Oh, but it also had on the ends of its hair, the hair at the ends was pink. Oh, it was pink here and it was blue there. Okay, what did it do? So those children, you have to constantly bring them to reality. If you have a narrator that's pretty good at narrating the story, but they just give you too much detail, you know that if you write like that, that's called a bad writer. You're not able to see what's important. It's hard for you to be a good writer. So in order for that child to be a good writer when they're working on composition in middle school, you need to make them, constantly bring them back to what's important. So they start giving you many details. You say, okay, good. What's important in this story? What's important here? You told me 10 sentences, summarize in 2. I don't want to hear 10 sentences. Let's come up, in your good 10 sentences, they were great, but this is not what we need here. In your 10 sentences, give me the most important detail. Let's shorten this whole thing to 2 sentences. And this is how you work on narration. And our plan, our staircase to great elementary writing is tracing first. Like we said, trace pictures, trace figures, then we trace letters. And I already explained the benefits of cursive writing. Cursive, I believe, is better, which is, you can read up on that and study that. You will probably come up to the same conclusion. And if you have a child who has done print before and doesn't want to do cursive, and you want to make them do cursive anyway, it's okay, you can do it. It's not undoable, just start small. Start small, 1 letter at a time. Don't make them write cursive passages, 1 letter at a time. It's okay, you can change a habit. People quit smoking after they've been smoking for 30 years. Therefore, a child only wrote in print can write in cursive. It just takes a little bit more work of you as a parent. Now, after that, we did tracing, we did copy work. Copy work first, words, letters, words, sentences, passages. Then we move to dictation. Dictate short sentences, longer sentences, passages. And that's it. We're done with elementary school. Once the child is able to take passage, good dictated passage, and not make mistakes in it, good. You've done your job. Next step is express yourself. Now that you know how to build a house, you can go ahead and build the house. Be creative. Now you can put the pink roof on it and blue walls and all kinds of fun stuff because you know how to build a house. And this is our goal of elementary school. Teach them how to build a house and how to love building the house. So I hope I answered all your questions in this course. If you have more questions, feel free to email me, to send me, if we communicate on Facebook through my various groups, send me a Facebook message. I'm including all kinds of printed materials that I hope will help you. And again, any questions, concerns, you need more ideas, I'm available. Please keep me posted of your progress. Let me know how it goes. Let me know what the problem is. And also let me know what other courses would you like to get from me, because I can share a lot of information. And if there's a specific area where your child struggles or where you struggle, please let me know and I will try to help as much as I can. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.